Kodavani Prachari Nirvasesha Sunyavadi Astyachadishatari Namaste Sarasvate Devi Kodavani Prachari Nirvasesha Sunyavadi Astyachadishatari Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Srivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. Sing. Maybe, because he's the ISKCON lawyer, who's always likes to give legal advice to all the temples. He's just very concerned that they don't. One of his big concerns is they act in a way which is detrimental. I think that's his big concern. Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Srivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Srivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Rama Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Rama Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Rama Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Oranga, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Krishna Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare Go Premanandi Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Welcome everybody this evening on this very auspicious day. Maybe in different countries the events are on different days, but here in France today is the appearance day of Madhavendra Puri, the appearance day of Srinivasacharya, the appearance day of Sri Radharaman, the beloved deities or deity of Gopal Bhatta Goswami. And it's also one or two other festivals I've forgotten. A very auspicious day, as yesterday we celebrated the wonderful festival of Lord Nrsimhadev. And hopefully you are all able to participate online, at least in this festival or in your homes. Prabhupada said one of the most 4 important festivals of the year for the Gaudiya Vaishnavas, along with Janmastami, Govardhan Puja and Gaur Purnima. And of course we have many other important festivals throughout the calendar, but those 4 particularly Prabhupada highlighted. And Lord Nrsimhadev is our former Ishtadev, our Lord, who helps to remove the obstacles, who does remove the obstacles if we submit ourselves to his mercy from our hearts, which are impeding our advancement in spiritual life. Today we're going to read or hear a little bit about Krishna willing, that is, we're helpless, but by his mercy we'll hear something about Madhavendra Puri Goswami. I don't think we'll have time to hear about Srinivasacharya, but we'll see. And also the appearance of Radharaman, we may not have time. I'll briefly tell the story of Radharaman, extremely briefly, because it's related to Nrsimhadev Chaturdasi. Because the great devotee Goswami, Gopal Bhatta Goswami, who was one of the 6 Goswamis of Vrindavan, one of Lord Chaitanya's chief disciples or followers, was especially expert in deity worship, and in having been born in South India, brought up in the Sri Sampradaya, he was an expert also in rules and regulations of Vedic rules and regulations. So he was very expert in all kinds of rituals and pujas and so on. So when he came to Vrindavan, of course he took shelter of Rupa Sanatan in Vrindavan, and he was worshipping. He was very much lamenting that he didn't get the chance to again associate with Lord Chaitanya. Lord Chaitanya come to South India, and there he had his association, but Lord Chaitanya told him to go to Vrindavan, so he went to Vrindavan at the right time. But he was hoping again, of course, to get Lord Chaitanya's association. But Lord Chaitanya, shortly after that, left the world. So he was very much lamenting, and Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu appeared to him in a dream and said, if you want my darshan, go to Nepal, to the Gandaki River. So he went to the Gandaki River in the Himalayas in Nepal. And whilst he was bathing there, suddenly in his lota, he saw there were many shalagrams. Suddenly appeared in his lota. Lota means like a jug which you use for bathing. And suddenly the shalagram is a little deity, some of you may not know. It's a small round stone, very special stone, which only appears in this river in Gandaki. And this stone is said to be none different than Krishna, worshipped as Krishna. And he saw many of them in his lota, and he thought, oh, this is strange. So he poured them back in the river, and when he took the water again, again, all the Shilas were inside of his lota. This went on 3 times. So he decided this must be Krishna's arrangement. He returned to Vrindavan and began to worship those Shilas. One day, one very rich merchant came along, and this rich merchant offered him all kinds of beautiful dresses for worshipping Krishna. But he only had these little round Shilas, where you can't dress the Shila, it's round. So what to do with all these dresses? So he was thinking, because all the other Goswamis in Vrindavan, they had forms of Krishna, beautiful 2-armed forms of Krishna, which they were worshipping with very short dress daily and so on. So he was thinking how nice it would be. But he didn't know what to say. So on the Shringadev Chaturdasi, which was yesterday, he was meditating on Lord Nrsingadev and how Prahlad Maharaj, the great devotee of Lord Nrsingadev, the form of Krishna, had taken shelter of Lord Nrsingadev. And by the devotion and the prayers and the love of Prahlad Maharaj, Lord Nrsingadev had appeared out of a stone. He burst out of the stone. So he was thinking, if the Lord can appear out of the stone, then he can also appear to me so I can worship him. So he was also reading the prayers of and the whole pastime of Lord Nrsingadev and the prayers of Prahlad Maharaj on that day of Nrsinga Chaturdasi, which was yesterday. So then nothing happened, but then he took rest. He had, I think, 12 Shilas, and he took rest at night, sometime in the morning or whatever. And then when he woke up and he went to do his worship of his little Shilas, he was shocked. He was stunned because the Damodar, one of his Shilas known as Damodar Shila, had transformed into a beautiful 3-fold bending form of Krishna, a most gorgeous little deity, and he named him Radharaman, a beautiful little deity of Krishna. And to this day, you can still see in the back of the deity, part of the Shila sticking out of the back of the deity there. So the deity, the Shila transformed into a deity. So that was the appearance of Radharaman today, which is related to Nrsinga Chaturdasi yesterday. Is also very much related to Srinivasacharya. I'll very briefly mention that, but because Srinivasacharya took initiation from Gopal Bhatta Goswami. This was the order of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. When Srinivas was a young boy, Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu had ordered or told his Siksha Guru Narahari Sharakara that this young boy Srinivas should go to Vrindavan eventually and take initiation from Gopal Bhatta Goswami. So he reminded him of that, and then eventually, when Srinivas did go to Vrindavan, he took initiation from Gopal Bhatta Goswami. Now, how is this related to Madhavendra Puri? Well, because Madhavendra Puri pastimes are very, very deep and very, very sweet. And we'll hear about them now, and they are focused around Sri Vrindavan Dham, where Gopal Bhatta Goswami evoked the appearance of Radharaman in the form of a deity, and the Madhavendra Puri's pastimes are also revolving around the amazing appearance of a most beautiful form of a deity. So we'll begin with a little kirtan, and then we'll talk about Madhavendra Puri. Jai Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jai Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jai Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Gopi Janaballabha Girivardhari Gopi Janaballabha Girivardhari Jaya Gopi Janaballabha Girivaradhari
Jaya Gopijana Vallabha Girivaradhari
Yasodhanandana Vrajajana
Yashodanandana Vrajajana
Yasodhanandana Vrajajana
Yashodanandana Vrajajana
Yasodhanandana Vrajajana
Yashodanandana Vrajajana
Yamunatira
Yamunatira
Yamunatira Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari
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 Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Rama Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Jaya Vishnu Pada Paramahamsa Parivrajacharya Ashtata Satishresi Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada Ki Shri Prabhupada Ki Ananta Kota Vaishnavinda Ki Nama Acharya Shri Haridasa Thakur Ki Prem Sekoho Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shri Vasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Ki Shri Shri Radha Krishna Gopa Gopinath Shamakunda Radhakunda Giri Govardhana Ki Shri Vrindavana Dham Ki Shri Mayapur Dham Ki Jagannath Puri Dham Ki Ganga Maya Ki Yamuna Maya Ki Tulasi Deva Ki Bhakti Deva Ki Samaveta Bhakta Vrinda Ki Lord Chaitanya's Harinam Sankirtan Ki Brihat Madanga Ki Srila Prabhupada Ki Shri Gornitai Ki Shri Madhavendra Puri Abhibhav Mahotsav Ki Shri Srinivasacharya Abhibhav Mahotsav Ki Shri Radha Raman Ki Ago Premanande. Oh, glorious to the assembled Lords. Oh, glorious to the assembled Lords. Oh, glorious to the assembled Lords. Oh, glorious to Shri Guru Grango, glorious to Shri Lord. Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prishtaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swami Niti Namane Namaste Saraswate Devi Gauravani Pracharine Nirvasesha Sunyavadi Astyachadi Shatarine. Hare Krishna. Dear devotees, I can see devotees from America, from England, from Germany, Holland, France, Slovakia, Czech, Russia, New Zealand, India, Australia, Malaysia, Singapore, maybe, Philippines, and a few other countries there. Maybe Fiji, I don't know. But welcome this evening. And as I mentioned, we're going to try to enter into the association of Srila Madhavendra Puri, whose appearance day is today. And he is one of our most, they say, prominent acharyas in our line of disciplic succession, appearing sometime before Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. And his pastimes are told by Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. One time when Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, after he'd taken sannyas, renounced order of life, Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, on the request of his mother, was heading towards Jagannath Puri on the coast of India to stay or base himself there. As a sannyasi, he was also sometimes traveling, but mostly staying in Puri. So on the way, as they were proceeding towards Jagannath Puri, Lord Chaitanya was accompanied by a few of his associates, Nityananda Prabhu, and I think Gadadhar Prabhu and a few others were accompanying him to Puri when they reached a small village, a very special place. It's a very incredible environment and atmosphere in this village. The village is called Remuna, and it's about halfway between Mayapur and Jagannath Puri. Very small village. And on the path as they were walking, Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and his few associates stopped there. There's a temple there now it's called Shira Chora Gopinath Temple. Prior to Madhavendra Puri, it was just the Gopinath Temple. But it became known as Shira Chora Gopinath because of the pastimes of Madhavendra Puri. So when Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu reached there and they were happily taking darshan of the deity of Shira Chora Gopinath, find out what that means later on. And then they were honoring Prasadam in the temple. Lord Chaitanya began to recite the pastimes which took place in that temple sometime many years before. And he began the story of Madhavendra Puri. Madhavendra Puri, very little is said about his early life. Very little. We can read about this pastime in the Chaitanya Charitamrita, and various aspects of his life are also mentioned in the Chaitanya Bhagavat and Bhakti Ratnakar. A few places you can read about the glorious personality of Madhavendra Puri. So Lord Chaitanya, basically, he just told the essence of the story of Madhavendra Puri's relationship with Shri, this deity of Shri Chor Gopinath. And it starts when Madhavendra Puri, who was a sannyasi, he was a Vaishnava, pure Vaishnava. He had no other interest in life other than pure devotional service to Krishna. He harbored no other thought whatsoever. He never asked Krishna for anything. In fact, it's said that he would never even ask anyone for anything. Whatever came, he accepted as Krishna's mercy. He wouldn't eat. He would never ask anyone for food. If food came, Krishna's mercy. If it didn't come, Krishna's mercy. He was completely dependent upon Krishna. And he was in a renounced order of life, traveling around in India. And at some point of time, he reached Vrindavan Dham. Vrindavan being the holy abode of Lord Sri Krishna, where he appears and performs his transcendental pastimes on this Bhuma Vrindavan, on this earthly platform. Krishna performs wonderful pastimes that we have an opportunity to hear about them. Similarly, the pure devotees perform pastimes. They may not be thinking like this, of course. They're just living for their service to Krishna, but their service to Krishna is often recorded and for our benefit, so we can hear about their wonderful service. Because by hearing about the service of great devotees, we can also develop attraction towards Krishna, the qualities which they have. And prominent amongst those qualities is their absolutely complete attachment to Krishna, complete surrender to Krishna. So Madhavendra Puri was a living example, a perfect example of this. So then Madhavendra Puri arrived in Vrindavan, and he was wandering, and then he came to Govardhan Hill, the holiest hill of all hills in Vrindavan. And there in Govardhan Hill, he proceeded around circumambulating Govardhan Hill, the hill which Krishna himself lifted on the little finger of his left hand, which is non-different than Krishna himself. And eventually Madhavendra Puri, he decided to sit down on the banks of Govinda Kund. Kund means like a lake. All round Govardhan Hill there are these wonderful little lakes. All of them represent different pastimes of the Lord. Many of them were created by the Abhishek. When Lord Brahma and the demigods performed the Abhishek, many ponds were formed from the waters which bathed Krishna during the Abhishek. So one of them was Govinda Kund. It's quite a large kund, quite a large lake. Madhavendra Puri sat down there and began to chant the holy names of Krishna. Day and night, he barely slept. He would only eat if somebody brought food. Otherwise, he would fast. For him, there was no real need to eat. He was completely satisfied, totally absorbed in chanting the holy names of Krishna. We are probably not on that platform. And we have to be honest, we're not. And we shouldn't try to be. This is the state of consciousness, the platform of those devotees who are eternal associates of the Lord. In fact, it is described that Madhavendra Puri is not of this world. He is descended, he has come from the spiritual world to this world to perform devotional service in setting the scene for Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's appearance in this world. We'll hear about that in a short while, but it's described by one great devotee named Kavi Karnapura, who has written a book on all of the Vaishnavas, who they are in Krishna Lila, Guru, Gamadesh, Dipika, which is a description of all the devotees of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and who they are in Krishna Lila. So it describes Madhavendra Puri, although he didn't directly associate with Lord Chaitanya. But it describes Madhavendra Puri, and his position in the spiritual world is quite unique. He is a kalpa vriksha tree. Now, that may be interpreted in various ways, but it means one who can fulfill all one's desires. In other words, he can award anyone with any relationship with Krishna, no matter what mood or what relationship one has naturally develops in relation to Krishna. Madhavendra Puri is like a desire tree to deliver whatever relationship one has to Krishna. So and it can be decided also all Vaishnavas in one sense are Kalpavriksha trees because they all give us this opportunity to connect with Krishna, the highest fruit. They can awaken within our hearts Krishna Prema, love of Godhead within our hearts. So Madhavendra Puri, from whichever way we look at it, was a Kalpavriksha tree in the spiritual world and in this world. So he sat there and he was chanting all night long on the banks of Govinda Kund. And then all of a sudden, during the day actually, one time in the evening, one little boy suddenly turned up. A beautiful little boy, bluish colored, and he was carrying a pot of milk. And there was Madhavendra Puri was chanting very, very intensely. And the boy came, "Oh Gosai, oh Gosai." That means Goswami means one who is renounced. "Oh Gosai, I have brought something for you." He came out of his samadhi. He looked at the boy. Oh, what is this? He said, "I have brought you this pot of milk." "How did you know I was here?" "Oh, some of the ladies, the cowherd girls in this area, when they were herding the cows or taking the milk to the homes, they saw you sitting here in deep meditation. So they asked me to come here and bring this milk for you." "Really?" "Yes, but I have to go quickly. I have to go and bring the cows back home." He ran away and left the pot. And he said, "I will come back later to collect the pot." Madhavendra Puri was astonished. This is very amazing. So he looked at this milk. He took some of the milk. It was incredible, like milk he'd never tasted before. It was really something special. Some or other, during the night, he dozed off for a few moments. And that same boy appeared to him in a dream. "Oh, Gosai, my dear devotee, please help me." The boy then suddenly revealed the fact that he was Krishna himself. He said, "I have been hidden in this bush in the jungle near Govardhan Hill for many, many, many years, covered by bushes and dust. And I wish you please come and relieve me, bring me out of the jungle and establish me on top of Govardhan Hill and re-establish my worship. Many years ago, my pujari hid me, my priest, he hid me in the jungle because Muslims were coming and attacking Vrindavan and they were smashing all the deities. So my pujari hid me in the jungle and then ran away. And since then, I've been here in the jungle experiencing heat and cold and rain and wind. and I have a fever. Please come and bring me out of the jungle. Bring the village people and worship me on top of Govardhan. After a few moments, Madhavendra Puri awoken. Immediately, he was convinced, oh no, the Lord of my life appeared before me and I did not recognize him, because he was always absorbed in loving devotion to Krishna, who appeared before him as a little coward boy and he didn't recognize him. But now that little boy had revealed himself. So now Madhavendra thought, I must execute his wish. So he went to the nearby village and told the villagers what had happened. Unlike today, if we said that today, they'd probably think you're completely crazy, totally mad. They may even lock you up. But in the case of Madhavendra Puri, the villagers were overwhelmed in joy at the opportunity to render service like this. It was a thick jungle with thorn bushes. They took their machetes and knives and so on, and they cut their way through the jungle, cutting down all the bushes to reach that spot which Madhavendra Puri had been shown in the dream where the deity was. And eventually they came to that spot, and sure enough, there was the deity of Gopal. Big, gorgeous deity, but covered in dust. And what to do? The deity was so heavy, they offered their obeisance, so heavy deity. So many men to carry the deity, and they managed to get the deity out of the jungle, and they carried the deity up the hill on top of Govardhan. Now, normally we don't do that, but when the Lord orders, we have to. So in this case, service or will of the Lord overrides one's own normal sentiments or normal even directions of Shastra. So Krishna Shastra means scriptures. So they took the deity on top of the hill, they cleaned the deity very nicely, cleaned the deity up, and then Madhavendra Puri arranged for a nice stone slab for the deity to be placed on, to stand on. And then they did a wonderful Abhishek ceremony, bathing the deity, cleaning the deity, bathing oils and perfumes and various auspicious substances were applied on the deity's body and bathing the deity with various auspicious items. And then clothing the deities, everything was arranged. Thousands of people were turning up for this amazing event. All the villages, they were coming, and people were bringing items to worship the Lord. Arti was performed. Huge feast was offered. Villagers were bringing masses of food from all around. It was called like the Anakut, this offering of various foodstuffs to the Lord 5,000 years ago when Lord was on the planet. And he performed the Govardhan Puja. Then they had this Anakuta ceremony. And it was like a repeat of that Anakut, that great festival, offering enormous quantities of food. For day after day, different villages would take responsibility to offer a huge feast to the deity. And Madhavendra Puri was worshipping the deity of Gopal on top of the hill. Gradually, as days passed by, they started to build a little temple and so many things for the deity, for the worship of the deity. Then Madhavendra Puri started to initiate. Even though they were Brahmins, he initiated him to the worship of Gaudiya Vaishnavism. Not that it was called Gaudiya Vaishnavism then, but the pure Vaishnava, the pure service of Krishna. He was introducing people like this to pure devotion. Because Madhavendra Puri is described that he was the first one in this disciplinate succession to introduce the most intimate and deepest and complete form of worship of Krishna, the worship of Radha and Krishna. Not just Krishna, but Radha and Krishna, called Madhurya Ras. Madhurya Ras is the most confidential, loving exchange between Radharani, his female consort, and Krishna. And not only Radharani, but she expands in so many female forms to bring pleasure to Krishna. So this very confidential worship, form of worshipping God as a completely sold-out lover. So he was the first one to introduce this, to reveal this in the world, Madhavendra Puri. So after a couple of years of worshipping the deity on top of Govardhan Hill, one night Madhavendra Puri was taking a little rest, and the same deity he's worshipping, but appeared to him in a dreamlike state, kind of a revelation state, and said to Madhavendra, Madhavendra Puri, I am so pleased with your service, but still my fever from being in the bush for so many years has not been extinguished. I'm still feeling, feverish. Please, I request you, bring me large quantities of sandalwood and massage my body with the cooling sandal. Madhavendra woke up knowing the wish of the Lord. Immediately he made arrangements. He left the puja in the hands of some of the Brahmins that he'd initiated, and he set off on his own by foot. No, there were no planes or trains in those days. He had to walk. Sandalwood was available in South India, Vrindavan is in North India. But nonetheless, he was determined to satisfy the will of his Lord. This is devotional service. He was willing to perform any dangerous austerity if that was what his Lord wanted, to please his Lord. So he set off on foot, intending to go to South India to obtain sandalwood and camphor for the pleasure of his Lord. And similarly, he came on his route after many weeks of travel. He reached Raimuna, this village where Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was telling the story. When he reached the village, he saw that they were offering one special preparations to the deity of Gopinath. This is the village of Raimuna, that same village, and the deity of Gopinath was there. And he saw, and he asked the priests what they were offering, and they explained they were offering some very special, unique preparation, one of a kind. Nowhere else was this very special kheer, this special kind of condensed milk, very special kind of condensed milk. They were offering this to Gopinath every night. He arrived in the evening. So he started to think, oh, wow, this sounds amazing. I wonder if somehow or another I could find out how we could offer this to my Gopal. Perhaps if I could taste a little bit of this kheer, then I might know how to prepare it. Then I could offer it to my Gopal. But that moment he realized, oh no, the offering is still on the altar. And I have thought of tasting that kheer. And the offering is still on the altar. And he was totally, he felt so offensive. He felt so bad. He stayed for a little while because the arti then began, evening ceremony. And then immediately he left without talking to anyone further. He thought, I'm so sinful, I better go quickly. So he left the temple and he went to a nearby village with a marketplace in the village. And there he sat down chanting in the village, underneath in one stall. There were many, the market was closed. It was night time now, but there were many stalls. So he sat behind the stall chanting Hare Krishna and spending the night before proceeding towards South India. That was his plan. Meanwhile, the priest of Gopinath, this is the middle of the night, had a dream-like experience. And Gopinath appeared in their dream. Wake up, in the middle of the night. I have a mission for you. Underneath my dress, first of all, he said, you take your bath, take a lamp, come down into the temple, open the door, come into the deity room where I am with your lamp. I have hidden a pot of this condensed milk under my dress. I want you to take this condensed milk to the marketplace in this village. And there, I want you to give this condensed milk to my devotee, Madhavendra Puri. The priest was shocked. He woke up. This is not ordinary. He took it seriously. And he took his bath, went down, and sure enough, there was the condensed milk, this pot, clay pot full of condensed milk, static, condensed, sweetened milk. was there underneath the dress of the deity. And Madhavendra Puri then proceeded with that pot, turned the light off, closed the door, went to the village, to the market, calling out, Madhavendra Puri, Madhavendra Puri, is there anyone here of the name Madhavendra Puri? Gopinath has sent this kheer for you. Suddenly, Gopinath, Madhavendra Puri heard this sound. What? Somebody is calling me? What is this? Middle of the night. Huh? Madhavendra Puri came out. And the priest saw, oh, are you Madhavendra Puri? That is a name by which I am addressed. Can I serve you? My dear sir, it is I who have to serve you. You are so fortunate. He paid his obeisances to him. He said, my dear sir, the Lord himself, Gopinath, has sent this pot of kheer for you. Please take it. Madhavendra was shocked. He took the kheer. The priest left. I have to go back now. And he left back to the temple. Madhavendra Puri was, what is this? This is unbelievable. Oh, dear, dear. He was thinking, oh no, if people hear about this, I may become famous. And that would be terrible. That would be terrible. I'm so fallen, I might become proud. He was so concerned like that. But he took some of that. He took that kheer. And that kheer was like nothing. Indescribable nectar. Completely indescribable. And he kept the clay pot. But he left. Early morning, he quickly left that marketplace and proceeded through the forest towards Puri, hoping that no one would find out about this. But of course they did. And when Madhavendra Puri eventually arrived in Puri, actually on the way, he'd been breaking a little bit of this clay pot. Every day he would eat a piece of that clay pot. Every day. And when he reached Puri, already news had reached Jagannath Puri somehow or another of this amazing event, and people all immediately recognized this is that most fortunate, most blessed devotee. And they were all honoring him, and he was very painful for him, very painful. But while he was there, he described his mission to obtain chandan, or sandalwood, and camphor for his beloved Gopal. News spread, and the king of Puri also heard about this, and immediately he came forward with as much sandalwood as Madhavendra Puri required, begging him to please accept it as a gift on behalf of his lord Gopal. Together with, he gave him about 30 to 40 kilos of sandalwood and about 1/2 kilo of camphor. And with this, he proceeded, carrying it on his own back. The king gave him all the papers to clear the customs and so many toll gates, etc. Yes, we may think that sometimes in the practice of devotional service, oh, why all this administration? Why all these hassles? Going through this, going through that. But even then, 600 or 700 years ago, whatever it was, this was the situation. There were many different, toll gates on the pathways, and dacoits and tax collectors, people trying to collect different reasons. And he managed to go through all of this. The king gave him one Brahmin and one servant, but Madhavendra insisted on carrying it himself. And they carried it on. They were going back towards Vrindavan, and then again they reached Raimuna. And when they reached Raimuna, of course, everybody there knew there was no hiding it. So that night, Madhavendra Puri stayed there in Raimuna, and he took rest after having darshan of the deity for the ceremony, the chanting, the kirtan, prasadam, everything. And he took rest there. And during that night, his deity of Gopal in Vrindavan appeared before him and said, Madhavendra Puri, I am so happy. I'm so thankful to you for your service towards me. I'm totally indebted. You do not need to move any further. You can stay in Raimuna, And with that sandalwood and camphor, you can massage the body of Gopinath. There is no difference between Gopinath and myself. I will be completely relieved if you could please do this. And he woke, and realizing this was the Lord's will, he then talked to the priest there in the Gopinath temple. And it just so happened that this was the time of the year when it was getting very hot, the summer season. They were so ecstatic to hear that Madhavendra Puri had brought this sandalwood, and they could massage the deity of Gopinath with this so much sandalwood for 2 months day. Every day they were massaging the deity, covering the deity with sandalwood. Madhavendra Puri himself was doing the puja. It was so wonderful, like this. So this is, and since that day, the deity of Gopinath has been known as Shir Chora. That means the thief, one who steals the pot of condensed milk. The deity of Gopinath who steals condensed milk for his devotee. So Madhavendra Puri then stayed there for some time and then proceeded on his way to various places. Eventually, actually, his samadhi is there in Raimuna. So maybe not long after that, maybe he passed away. And his samadhi, or his, we call it a grave in the West, but that's not a very nice term. It is very grave. That's why they call it grave. But it's not the same when a pure devotee leaves the world. His departure from the world is very, very glorious, because it's a lifetime of transcendental, you could say, devotion to Krishna, perfection when they leave their body. And when they leave the body, they leave the boat of devotional service behind. And in the case of Madhavendra Puri, it is said that he sowed the seed of pure devotional service. That seed was then grown, developed by one of his disciples. He had many disciples, and amongst his disciples, Ishvara Puri was prominent. He had many, because Ishvara Puri was personally serving him in his last days on this earth. And he was cleaning up for him, serving him in every single way without question, whatever was required. So Madhavendra Puri blessed Ishvara Puri, who became the next Acharya in the line of disciple succession. And Ishvara Puri then developed the seed of pure prema bhakti in the mood of Madhurya Ras. And then that seed was fully fructified because Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu took initiation from Ishvara Puri. And in the form of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, the seed of pure bhakti fully fructified in the tree which bore incredible fruits of bhakti. But back to Madhavendra Puri, he had many other disciples too. And we're going to hear about some of them now. I hope you can still see me. I'm going to switch pages. Can you see me? I don't know if you can see me or not.
Yeah,
they can see.
Yes,
okay. This is a little reading from Chaitanya Charitamrita. Dharma stapana hetu sadura vyavaha Puri gosani raye acharana se dharma sar. A devotee's behavior establishes the true purpose of religious principles. Vasikananda Prabhu, you can put it on the screen, actually. I don't know if you've done it. Hare Krishna, let's go back and see if he's done it. Yeah, he's putting it on the screen. Thank you, Rasika. There it is. A devotee's behavior establishes the true principles of the true purpose of religious principles. The behavior of Madhavendra Puri Goswami is the essence of such religious principles, a perfection of tolerance, of humility, respect for others, not expecting any respect from anyone, complete dependence upon Krishna, simplicity, you name it, every quality perfectly manifested in Madhavendra Puri. And in the purport, so this is a very important point, devotee's behavior. Religious principles are established by the behavior of a devotee. It's not just some philosophy which we espouse, it's behavior which establishes the principles. Anyone can learn things and speak things if Krishna allows, but the behavior is what really makes, as Lord Chaitanya said to Haridas Thakur, he said, You not only preach Krishna consciousness, but you are a perfect example of one who practices it. Therefore, you are an acharya, a teacher of the pure absolute truth. So Madhavendra Puri was complete in all these ways. Well, he wasn't so much preaching, you could say. He was preaching by action. There was one, we'll find out why he wasn't so much in a minute. Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur gives the following commentary on this passage. And this is only a bit of the commentary, okay? A sadhu or an honest man is called a Mahajan or Mahatma. The Mahatma is described thus by the Lord in the Bhagavad Gita. Oh, you have to scroll down. 9:13. Mahatmanastu mam partha daivim prakritim ashrita bhajanchanana manaso gyatva avyayam. O son of Prita, those who are not deluded, the great souls, are under the protection of the divine nature. They are fully engaged in devotional service because they know me as the Supreme Personality of Godhead, original and inexhaustible. In the material world, the word Mahatma is understood in different ways by different religionists. I don't know, maybe you put the whole purport there. I'll just have to check, because I'm not going to read the whole purport. I'll just have to go back. Yeah, you put the whole purport. I'm not going to read the whole purport. It's 3 pages long. Forget that. Take that off the screen. It's going to confuse us. I sent you later, actually. Unfortunately, maybe you weren't able to put it on. I sent you what I was going to put on the screen. I'll read it. Srimad Bhagavatam. This is the 3rd canto of Srimad Bhagavatam. Anyone whose work is not meant for elevating him to religious life, anyone whose religious ritualistic performances do not raise him to renunciation, and anyone situated in renunciation that does not lead him to devotional service to the Supreme Personality of Godhead must be considered dead, although he is breathing. So that just about, don't try to put it on, Rasik. I'm cutting a bit here, I'm cutting a bit there, unless you've got what I sent you. If you've got what I sent you, you can put it on. But otherwise, it's going to be bits and pieces. Did you get what if you did get what I sent you, put it on. Otherwise, I'll have to read offline. Trying to put it on. Okay.
I'll just allow these 2 disciples.
Yeah, please. The conclusion is, that all pious activity, fruitive activity, religious principles, and renunciation must ultimately lead to devotional service. There are different types of processes of rendering service. One may serve his country, people, and society. One may serve the Varnashram Dharma. One may serve the sick, the poor, the rich, women, demigods, and so on. All this service comes under the heading of sense gratification or enjoyment in the material world. It is most unfortunate that people are more or less attracted by such material activity, and that the leaders of these activities are accepted as Mahajans, great ideal leaders. Actually, they're only misleaders. But an ordinary man cannot understand how he is being misled, because they're completely under the modes of nature. Narottam Das Thakur, another great devotee, says, Sadhu Shastra Guru Vakya Chitete Koriya Hikyam. One should accept as one's guide the words of the sadhus, the Shastra, and the Guru. A sadhu is a great personality like Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. The Shastras are the injunctions of revealed scriptures, and the Guru, or spiritual master, is one who confirms the scriptural injunctions. Accepting the guidance of these 3 is the actual way of following the great personalities, the Mahajans, for real advancement in life. Mahajana yena gatak sapanta. That's from the Chaitanya Charitamrita Madhya Lila. It was also in the Mahabharata. A man covered by illusion cannot understand the proper way. Therefore, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu says, Dharma stapana hetu sadhura vyavahar. The behavior of a devotee is the criterion for all other behavior. And people don't understand. They cannot see, what good are you doing for the world chanting Hare Krishna? What good are you doing for the world worshipping deities? What good is your books and your philosophy? People are suffering. What are you doing for the world? They can't understand it. It doesn't seem to have any practical benefit to them because they don't understand the real essence of life. They're on the bodily platform of life. And they're, as it said earlier, they're like dead because they're not recognizing their actual spiritual nature. The only purpose of human life is meant to be to realize self-realization. That's the goal of human life. But they don't understand it. Puri Goswami, Ye Acharana Se Dharmasar, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu personally followed the behavior of Madhavendra Puri and advised others to follow his principles. Unfortunately, people have been attracted to the material body since time immemorial. Yasyatma buddhi kunapetritadhuke swadi kalatradi shubhomahejati yatirta buddhi shalilena kahichit janesha bigesha hivakokara. A human being who identifies his body made of three elements with his self, who considers the byproducts of the body to be his kinsmen, who considers the land of his birth worshipable, and who goes to holy places, to places of pilgrimage simply to take a bath rather than meet men of transcendental knowledge there, is to be considered like an ass or a cow, or an ass that brings grass for cows. Is that it? Are we done? No, there's one more here. So that's just a bit of the purport. So as long as one's on the material bodily platform, we worship people who are really just covered by the modes of nature. They're actually not really due to be worshipped. We may recognize their work and so on, but they're not Mahajans or Mahatmas because they're still within the modes of nature. They're still based, their whole principle is based upon the material platform. So a real Mahajana, a real Mahatma, one who can free us from suffering, is one who is beyond the causes of suffering, one who is above the modes of nature, one who is no longer trying to enjoy this material world. And you don't find those people very often, very rare. Madhavendra Puri was perfection, personification of this. Jai Shri Madhava Puri, Krishna Prema Pura, Bhakti Kapaturura Te Ho, Pattama Ankura. All glories to Sri Madhavendra Puri, the storehouse of all devotional service unto Krishna. He is a desired tree of devotional service, and it is in him that the seed of devotional service first fructified. Beautiful reading from the Chaitanya Charitamrita there. When Madhavendra Puri was in his last days on this planet, he was very much absorbed, totally absorbed, 100% absorbed in feeling separation from Krishna. And he recited a verse which goes like this. Aidi narayadranata he maturanata kadavola se vidayam tvadalokakataram daita brahmyati kim karotyaham. O compassionate Lord of the poor and the humble, O Lord of Mathura, when shall I see you again? Without seeing you, my heart has become very much afflicted. O my beloved, I am overwhelmed. What shall I do now? And this verse, which Lord Chaitanya recited, don't forget this, pastimes are being discussed by Lord Chaitanya in this temple of Gopinath. And he recited, when he mentioned that Madhavendra Puri recited this verse, Lord Chaitanya went into ecstasy. Because only 3 persons are familiar with this verse. And that's Lord Chaitanya himself, Radharani, and Madhavendra Puri. So this is most considered to be the treasure house. This verse is the jewel, the topmost jewel in the treasure house of all verses glorifying the Supreme or in relationship with the Supreme. It's the diamond, it's like a diamond, most precious of all valuable jewels. Madhavendra Puri, we've mentioned some of this. I'll just jump forward. One who hears this narration with faith and devotion attains the treasure of love of Godhead at the lotus feet of Sri Krishna. The body of Madhavendra Puri is imbued with ecstatic love of God, and his followers partake of those same sentiments. He did not relish anything other than loving sentiments for Lord Krishna, who enjoyed his pastimes in the body of Madhavendra Puri. Now, I don't know, what is our time? Oh, okay, a little bit more time. I don't know which one to read. I've got two wonderful pastimes here. One of them is from the Chaitanya Bhagavat and one is from Bhakti Ratnakar. So I'm going to read the one from Chaitanya Bhagavat because we're going to go back now. Oh, what happened? What happened there? What happened?
I think the Zoom chat is on.
Try to get the picture back on Zoom. We're off Zoom, I think.
Yes. Back to meeting. There we are.
I'm sorry, Prabhus, if you missed anything. Did you miss something? Not sure.
No, yes, Rasikananda is saying
no. No, okay. So I'm going to read now from Chaitanya Bhagavat. This is really ecstatic because today is the appearance day of Madhavendra Puri, and this is a little incident. Amongst his disciples, he had many disciples, not just Ishvara Puri, Paramananda Puri, and Advaitacharya. There's even, sometimes it's said even Nityananda is his disciple. Nityananda accepted Madhavendra Puri like his guru, but usually it's said that Nityananda was initiated by Lakshmi Pati Tirtha, who was the guru of Madhavendra Puri. But sometimes it's said Madhavendra Puri was also the guru of Nityananda Prabhu. And so many others were his disciples. So we're going to read a little bit now. So try to listen. It's really sweet. This is when Madhavendra Puri he spent time with Advaitacharya, and Advaitacharya was completely overwhelmed by his presence. The Lord, let's see, where should we start? So actually what we're going to start off is Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is now in the house of Advaitacharya. The Lord remained for a few days at Shantipur, enjoying his stay at Advaitacharya's house. One day was Madhavendra Puri's appearance day. Although there is no difference in spiritual status between Madhavendra Puri and Advaitacharya, Advaitacharya considered himself to be Madhavendra Puri's disciple. There is no doubt that Lord Chaitanya is eternally present in Madhavendra Puri's body, for his devotion to Lord Krishna is unparalleled. Before the advent of Lord Chaitanya, the world was practically devoid of any genuine devotion for the Supreme Lord. And yet, by the special mercy of Lord Chaitanya, Madhavendra Puri exhibited the highest platform of devotional ecstasy. In fact, he was so absorbed in meditation upon Lord Krishna that he would hardly be aware of what he was doing. While walking on the street, Madhavendra Puri would suddenly start to dance very gracefully and chant the holy name. Sometimes he would remain in a trance of ecstasy for several hours. Sri Madhavendra Puri spent his days relishing his sublime relationship with Krishna. Only the absence of devotion among the people in general made him morose. Madhavendra Puri gave a lot of thought as to how the people's suffering could be alleviated. He came to the conclusion that Lord Krishna himself must appear. Madhavendra Puri was deeply pained to see the godlessness of human society, yet he found no one that he could talk to about this. Finally, thinking that sannyasis would be sympathetic to his concern, he approached them. But to his dismay, Madhavendra Puri found all of the sannyasis polluted with a desire to become one with God. Giving up their association, he felt very unhappy. He felt very unhappy that he had no one to discuss Krishna Katha with. Imagine when Prabhupada came to the West, he had no one. Completely alone. But he created an audience out of atheistic, whatever, personalities. So powerful. So Madhavendra Puri was thinking like this too. He had no one to discuss Krishna Katha with. Learned scholars, yogis, recluses, and even sannyasis were never heard to speak in a way that would guide the people to the path of devotional service. All these so-called spiritualists were simply interested in displaying their great learning by presenting various arguments. In fact, all of these people had become agnostics because of refusing to accept the deity form of the Lord. Seeing this condition of society, Madhavendra Puri decided to live alone in the forest. He thought, why am I roaming here and there searching for a Vaishnava? How can I hope to meet one? No one even has any appreciation for a Vaishnava. Let me go live in the forest. There at least I will not have to associate with non-devotees. Just at that time, when Madhavendra Puri made up his mind to withdraw from society, by divine arrangement he met Advaita Acharya. Sri Advaita Acharya was also greatly afflicted for the same reason. And yet, in spite of this, he continued to hold discussions on Bhagavad Gita and Srimad Bhagavatam, stressing devotional service to the Lord. Thus, when Madhavendra Puri came to Advaita Acharya's house, it was a wonderful meeting of two highly elevated Vaishnavas. When Advaita Acharya first saw Madhavendra Puri, recognizing the signs of saintliness in him, he fell to the ground, offering obeisances. Madhavendra Puri picked up Advaita Acharya and embraced him warmly, drenching him with tears of ecstasy. They sat down and began to talk about Krishna, so that within a short while they forgot themselves and everything else. Being merged in an ocean of spiritual mellows, Madhavendra Puri was such an elevated devotee and lover of Lord Krishna that just by seeing a blackish cloud, he would become agitated with spiritual emotions. Hearing Lord Krishna's name would bring him immediate ecstasy. Advaita Acharya could see Madhavendra Puri's exalted character, and so he was extremely pleased to meet him and wanted to take instructions from him. This is how the two spiritual stalwarts met. Since that time, Advaita Acharya always celebrated Srila Madhavendra Puri's appearance day with great festivity. On this occasion, Lord Chaitanya and his associates were very happy to take part in the festival, especially when they saw how vigorously Advaita Acharya went about decorating and making other preparations. The devotees assigned various duties amongst themselves according to their capabilities to help in the preparations. Mother Sachi, she's the mother of Lord Chaitanya, accepted the responsibility for all the cooking. The other wives gathered around her and began to get things ready. One devotee volunteered, I would like to make all the sandalwood paste. Another said, I will make flower garlands. I will fetch water, said another. Give me the duty to sweep and wash the floors, said someone else. Another devotee said, I would like to wash all the Vaishnavas' feet. Everywhere devotees were busy. Some were putting up the multicolored pandal, while others were bringing vegetables, oil, etc. to the kitchen. Many of the devotees started kirtan, others joined in chanting, Hari, Hari, Hari Bo, as they enthusiastically performed their services. In this way, Advaita Acharya's house was transformed into Vaikuntha. The spiritual world, the Lord was very satisfied to see the elaborate arrangements. He went around the house looking at everything. There were a couple of rooms filled with bags of rice. The firewood was stacked high like a mountain. Several rooms were being used for cooking, and there were pots strewn everywhere. A room was filled with dal, and there were 7 rooms for the storage of clothes. Room after room was seen filled with flat rice, puff rice, and leaf plates. It was impossible to count the number of bananas, coconuts, and big lumps of gur, or that's like raw sugar, lying around. There were many, many rooms filled with all varieties of vegetables. Another spectacle that met the eyes was the rows and rows of large containers filled with milk, yogurt, and cream, piled high with sugar cane, and next to that were the vessels of oil, ghee, and salt. This miraculous display appeared as if from nowhere and was indescribable in terms of variety and quantity. The Lord was astonished because he knew that this was not humanly possible. He said, Such a manifestation of opulence cannot be the work of an ordinary mortal. Shri Advaita must be Mahesh, Lord Shiva himself. That is what I strongly feel. Advaita Charya must be an incarnation of Lord Shiva. And here it goes on. As the Lord went around the house, taking note of the elaborate arrangements with great pleasure, he glorified Advaita Charya in front of everyone. When the Lord came to where the kirtan was going on, his presence immediately magnified the devotees' enthusiasm. They danced in every direction, singing and clapping their hands, and they shone with a great effulgence. Their bodies were decorated with sandalwood paste and flower garlands. Lord Nityananda, with his impressive stature like that of a wrestler, danced about like a little boy, laughing with innocent glee. Advaita Charya was totally absorbed in dancing, unaware of the passage of time. At last the Lord joined the dancing, after having inspired everyone. The devotees circled the Lord and danced, keeping him in the center. The whole day passed in this way, until finally the Lord sat down with his devotees. Taking the Lord's permission, Advaita Charya went about preparing for the devotees' prasad. The Lord then sat down with all the devotees to eat. As usual, the devotees kept Lord Chaitanya in the middle. Mother Sati had prepared a feast in honor of Sri Madhavendra Puri with an incredible variety of rice preparations, vegetables, and sweets. The Lord relished the prasad and spoke about Madhavendra Puri between each mouthful. After finishing, the Lord got up, washed his hands and mouth, and again sat down. So those are just a few little snippets about Madhavendra Puri. Madhavendra Puri Goswami ki jai. Srinivasacharya ki jai. Shivadaraman ki jai. What is the verse number of the prayers of Madhavendra Puri? I don't know which prayers. I mean, we read a lot of things. I'm not sure if I can easily tell you that. You mean which ones from the Chaitanya Bhagavat? I'll post them out. I'll get them. I'll put the whole thing up for all the devotees, and I'll put it out. Okay? I can't quickly go there right now. Sorry, but we'll do it for you. It is wonderful how Madhavendra Puri was so Krishna conscious without association. Did he leave any tips of how he achieved this? Or was it his previous eternal position? It certainly was his eternal position. No doubt about that. He's a parishad, as maybe you heard. Described by Kavi Puri, he descended from the spiritual realm, from Goloka Vrindavan, as none other than the Kalpa Vriksha tree within Goloka Vrindavan, which opens up the gateway, so to speak, to all various rasas of loving exchange with Krishna. A very special position which he has, coming in this world on the request of Lord Chaitanya to set the scene for this Sankirtan movement. It's the same with Advaita Charya, Haridas Thakur. Even Haridas Thakur is described that he was chanting 3 lakhs of names before he even came in contact with other great Vaishnavas. There's no mention of him coming in contact with Vaishnavas. They're already let's say, vehicles of the holy name, or they're already, instruments of the Lord's will. It's not that they become. They're Nitya Siddha. There's 3 ways for perfection: Nitya Siddha, Kripa Siddha, and Sadhana Siddha. The Nitya Siddhas, they don't have to practice to become, self-realized or God-conscious. They may manifest it or they may not manifest it, but they're already complete in pure love of God. They're descendants of the internal spiritual world who appear in this world for the Lord's purpose. So Madhavendra Puri was one of those. So that was already there. From our point of view, as far as tips are concerned, well, let me think. Tips, how we can come to that platform. Well, the verse of Lord Chaitanya, of course, Trinadapi Sinichena, no matter what position we're in, we can remember that verse of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. But from our point of view, being conditioned souls, the general practice of sadhana siddha, or practicing devotional service, is the mercy, the kripa of the pure devotees of the Lord, and by their mercy we can attain that perfect platform. So he was always in that mood, very completely humble totally humble mood of seeing himself as in, fallen or whatever you want to call it, searching out. His mood was he was always searching for a Vaishnava. He was searching for that association, as you may have just heard. He was searching for it. And it did. It wasn't the only occasion when he met Advaita Acharya. That was the many other occasions when he was relishing an intimate relationship with Lord Nityananda and other devotees on his journeys. He met Lord Nityananda and they were so absorbed. Associating with devotees accordingly is the essential thing. Which we can imbibe. It's by the association of devotees. Now, if you don't have that association, which this comment mentions, how to get the association of a Mahajan, Mahajana Yena Gataksa Panta, we have to follow in their pathway. So we can hear about them and pray to them and try our best to follow them. Srila Prabhupada wrote one letter. He said, if you can't get the direct association of devotees, then you read my books carefully and you try to become that association. So that's by the mercy of those pure devotees, we can also, even in absence, if that's the situation we're in because of circumstances, maybe now because of lockdown, we don't get so much opportunity. But if that is the situation, then we should take advantage of the opportunity to associate with these pure devotees by reading their books or reading Prabhupada's books, listening to his lectures, listening to his bhajans, keeping in touch with other devotees if you can, etc., etc. As much as we can, cultivate that need to associate with such Mahajans, such great devotees, would be our advice. So I think we can learn from this that Madhavendra Puri was always searching for the association of pure devotees. It wasn't like he was trying to avoid it by any means. He was searching, so we should always be eager and keen for the association of devotees, even if we haven't got it. Thank you, Sombhava. In which way does Madhavendra Puri establish the worship of Krishna accompanied by Radharani? Did he install deities of Radha and Krishna still worship? It's not mentioned. His mood was there. He was in the mood of Radharani. He revealed that mood of Vipalambhabhav, that mood of intense separation from Krishna. And he displayed exactly this mood of devotion towards Krishna that Radharani has. So he manifested that particular mood of devotional service towards Radharani, towards Krishna rather, which was not previously manifested. It was all awe and reverence before. And it's not that he didn't establish awe and reverence on the external plane, but internally he was in the mood of intimacy, very intimate relationship with the Lord, revealing all 5 of the various aspects or rasas with the Supreme Lord. Whereas in reverential service, only 2.5 of those rasas are manifested. So up to that point, at least in this line, only 2.5 of the rasas were really manifested properly in the Madhava Sampradaya. So he revealed the others up to the fullest extent. I don't know of any instance where he installed a Radharani as such. I don't know much about that. I've never heard. But he was in that mood of worshipping Radha and Krishna, or worshipping Krishna in the mood of Radharani. Oops. Thank you. I'm blessed when I have visited ISKCON Radha Madhava Mandir in Makati. Jai. No, not really. Hare Krishna. You have to thank the devotees there in Makati for the beautiful temple there. Hare Krishna. Okay, Hare Krishna. I think that's all the questions there. This evening is more of Leela tonight, pastime. We'll be online again on Saturday morning, 10 o'clock French time, which is perhaps a little more suitable for the devotees in Australia, New Zealand, Philippines, Malaysia, India side. And that will be 10 o'clock on Saturday morning French time. And we'll just finish with it. I've got another one in 25 minutes online. So we'll have a little kirtan and we'll... Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Bol, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Gauranga, oh Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Go Premanandi! Srila Prabhupada Ki! Hare Krishna. Don't worry, the desire to associate with devotees Krishna will fulfill your desire. Don't worry, Hare Namananda. You'll be all right. Sometimes we have to suffer a little bit before we realize how valuable that association is. You know, we sometimes when we're with the devotees, we find all the faults we can find, you know. Every little detail, you get on their case. Oh, I don't want to associate with these devotees. They're all in my or whatever. And then we're on our own. We really realize, you know, after a while, if we're lucky. Of course, we should try to become devotees of devotees. We should try to become a little bit of a good example. That's another thing, big example we can learn from Madhavendra Puri, of course, the importance practicing what we preach and not just, preaching it. We sometimes are very good at, getting on people's cases, but not applying it to ourselves, You gotta be, Prabhupada was able to do that, but his heart was full of love. It wasn't like, just get on people's case sometimes. And he would only do it when it was like the person was in the position to receive it, or it was necessary to do, not just do it. It was conscious of how the other person. It's like food. You have to feed a person according to their ability to digest the food, not just stuff it in there. We have so many examples in Bangladesh one time when there was a famine, and UNICEF or somebody sent all these boatloads of food over. It was all canned food, canned meat. Those people weren't used to that, and it said that more people died of eating the food than they did of famine. Yes, they couldn't digest it, complete undigestible. So we've got to know what the pure devotees know, what we can digest. Sometimes we don't always know that. As the heart becomes purified, we hope that we can have a little bit more. We can become a little more instrumental in serving in that regards. Interesting. Another thing we can learn from Madhavendra Puri, although it's a little extreme, you could say, that he had a different business to perform in service, but he wasn't, he left. He was planning to leave the association for the public, basically speaking, because he couldn't find a Vaishnava. It's Lord, we have three, it's Lord Nityananda, Lord Chaitanya, the Sankirtan movement that really started in our line this incredible missionary spirit of preaching this message in places that people are really not interested at all. And somehow or another, by the power of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's Sankirtan, even disinterested, agnostics, atheistic people, heart changes. So this is our mission. Madhavendra Puri was, you could say, a little bit more in the mood of a Bhajananandi mood, more so, although with a heart of compassion, heart full of compassion for the fallen conditioned souls. So what are we? We're just trying to follow the mood of Srila Prabhupada, who was manifesting Goswami, the mood of a preacher, the mood of wanting to give Krishna to everyone, to everybody. That's our mood. So let's try to imbibe Srila Prabhupada's mood. It's the same thing. Pleasing one's spiritual master is the essence of our success in spiritual life. So try your best. Well, I'm going to bid everyone good night now. I've got to go on to another Skype call, another Zoom call now. Hare Krishna. Thank you all very much, and safe journey on the path back to Godhead. And we look forward to seeing you soon. Perhaps if the lockdown ever ends, or whatever, we'll see what Krishna arranges. We will, maybe we'll get a little bit more, but maybe this is a nice way to associate too. Hare Krishna. Thank you all very much. Sound?
Yes, I put the sound on.
Sound? Hare everyone. Hare Krishna.
His Holiness Janananda Goswami Maharaj.
Goswami ki jai. Hare Bol. Hare Krishna. Yeah. Ireland.
Maharaj.
Krishna Maharaj, Dandavat, Dir Govindas.
New Zealand, Hare Bol.
Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Russia, Hare Bol.
Dandavat Maharaj, Dir Govindas, New Jersey.
Hare Krishna, everyone. Hare Bol. Okay.